start off with, the bag, you could have all the kits in the world, but you need a good bag to carry it all in. So I have gone for the Birchwood Cyclops Crusader. Before this one I had more of a conventional hiking rucksack, which was great for long distances, but didn't really fit the amount of stuff that I wanted in, and this does the trick. It's got a main centre body here. It's got two pouches, I think they're called two pouches on the outside, one on the left, one on the right, and then we've got one at the very top as well. So I'm going to be going into each pocket and showing you what I keep where. But this is a beast of a pack, bomb proof. Looks very similar to the ones used in the army, whether it was these ones or just a similar one that they produced, I'm not really sure, but I've not had to do any modifications to it. A couple of patches, the Living to Learn patch on there, and a couple of cords neatened up, but that's about it. I've not had to do any modifications to this at all. It's a great pack. Had it for a very long time now, like a good few years, and I've not had any zips break on me, nothing come loose, everything's still nice and tight, nice and sturdy. So yeah, absolutely great pack. So in the main section, to start off with, is where I keep most of my kind of sleeping gear, as well as my axe and my saw. I should say this is just my personal preference. Some of the kit in here is very widely used. Some of the other kit people dislike or prefer something else, and that's absolutely fine. Just wanted to share the things that I take out. So without further ado, I start off with, now it's in a dry bag, but it is a DD super light 3x3 tarp. Pretty bog standard DD tarps. Originally had the normal 3x3 and then went to the super light version. Okay, slightly smaller, well, a lot smaller actually, and lighter. And then with that, I've just created my own kind of paracord runoffs for each corner for the different setups. Then next, for sleeping in, I've got a DD jungle hammock. So this is the one with the built-in fly net, and it's just in the kind of DD, I wouldn't call this a snake skin bag, but it opens up either end, and it's already set up so that I can just put the tree huggers around and carabiner, clip it on straight away underneath the tarp. So DD tarp, DD hammock. Preferred the DD hammock to some of the others. The material was a lot nice. I didn't feel constricted. Other hammocks that I'd use, I felt kind of too constricted. It wasn't a very not that it's a stretchy material, but it just felt a bit, it had a bit more give in it, so it didn't feel like I was being constrained. So then underneath the hammock I have the Snug Pack under blanket. I'll talk about that in a second, because when you see my sleeping bag, I don't really think I'd need this. This is more just me not being as experienced in not having an under blanket. I just like it. I just know that it's going to be nice and warm. In the summertime, I don't really use this at all, but in the winter, I still use it, even though I've got a -20 sleeping bag, which might sound strange, but I've never had any problems with it. It fits in my bag, so I'm not really going to change it. Before my sleeping bag though, the DD Magic Carpet, I don't know why it's called Magic Carpet, it's just a ground sheet, the XL size, just to go underneath the hammock, put any kit on it that I don't want getting wet on the floor, and it's a dry place for me to stand as I'm getting out and get my socks and boots on in the mornings. It weighs nothing, packs down to nothing, so it doesn't take up much room. And then finally, the sleeping bag that I've gone for is the Raymir's Golden Eagle. I'm sure it's the Golden Eagle, not the Osprey. It's the -20 bag, which is overkill for the UK, definitely overkill. But the other sleeping bags that I've used haven't been as comfortable, haven't been as warm, and haven't packed down as small. Now this isn't kind of cinched up as much as it can be. It doesn't pack down to a lot at all, so it saves up a lot of room in the back, and it's incredibly warm. So yeah, I mean, I suppose you can compare it to a down quilt, but again, if I'm using this in wet weather, I don't want the down getting wet. This is just a one fits all for any weather sleeping bag. It's warm, it's comfortable, packs down small, so that's why I use it. That's why I was saying the under blanket, if I've got a -20 sleeping bag, you're not going to need it in the summer at all. In the winter, I think there's people out there who would still argue that using an under blanket just to stop that convection from sapping the heat from underneath you. When you're in a sleeping bag, obviously that bit underneath you, the insulation is going to be squished down a lot, even if you're on the floor. So that's why people use a mat on the floor. So yeah, I think I might test it out in the next winter that comes around to see if I need the under blanket. But for now, it's not taking up any room that I need for anything else, so I'm happy to keep it in. So that is my sleep system: the tarp, the hammock, the sleeping bag and under blanket, and the ground sheet. The only other two things in this main section that I keep is my axe and my saw. So for my saw, I'm using the Boreal 21 bow saw. Again, these became very popular in the last few years. Very robust, durable item, incredible saw, and packs down to absolutely nothing. Yeah, you wouldn't notice that in your bag at all. Oh, sorry, it's the Agawa, so it's the Boreal 21 Agawa. So yeah, that's my saw, and then the axe that I'm using is the Fiskars X17. It's a nice length handle for kind of a pack axe. It's a very heavy, well, not very heavy item, it's a heavy item. It's got a good weight to the head, and it's got that wedged shaped head as well. It is an incredible splitting axe, and that is primarily what I'm using my axe for when I'm out and about. I did have a council tool. It wasn't the Hudson Bay, it was the, what was it, the Hudson Bay? Yeah, I had a council tool Hudson Bay axe, which I used with a lovely wooden handle, lovely head to it, and it split. It was absolutely fine as an all-round axe, lighter, but then I saw someone using this axe on camp, and it was just going through logs like butter because of the wedged shape to the head. So it is incredibly efficient at splitting, so I changed over to it. I do need to get a I suppose nicer mask sheath to it. I need to make one out of leather so that I'm not using this kind of bulky, unnecessary sheath. It is heavy, so in the bag it does add a few pound to it, but like I said, this is my weekend bag. This is not a week where I'm walking large amounts of distances. There's a lot of kit that I'll be showing you today that would just get taken out straight away. Obviously I wouldn't have a hammock set up, I would just use my tarp and create a kind of tarp tent out of that. Wouldn't be taking this axe. I'd take a larger knife to use battening with. I'd still take the saw. The saw doesn't weigh a lot, and for prepping wood, a saw I would use over a large heavy axe. So that's everything in the main pack, which I'll move to one side. Now, depending on the weather and the conditions, I may have 2 or 3 extra items in the main pack, and that first of all, for colder weather, where I just need another kind of wool layer, I'll normally always take out a fleece. It's only a thin fleece, even when it's summer, because I can use it as a pillow if need be. But when it does start getting into that autumn winter time, I take out the Bison Bushcraft, a wool shirt. Again, no modifications, just a few patches sewn on, but this is kind of all I really need to stay warm. It's lovely and warm, and like I said, with the fleece underneath and a base layer, I've got all the layers that I need there. Sometimes when it gets really cold, then I do have my 2 dogs wool smock, which is a beast of beast of a smock. It doesn't really fit in the bag because of how big it is, so it's normally just something that I leave in the car, tuck it underneath my arm, and carry it down with me. I'm not going to be cold in that. I could just sleep on the floor in that because of how thick and how warm and how big it actually is. I've not brought it with me because, like I said, I'm not going to fit it in the pack just to walk out to do the video with. However, I have done another video on it in the past, so you can go and have a look at that. It was a review video that I did with the Journeyman gloves as well, so you can find that video in my other videos, but I'll leave a link underneath if you want to have a look at it, because it is a really impressive piece of kit. So that's cold weather. Warm weather, like it is today, I'm just going to be in a t-shirt, like I said, I'll take my fleece. But any wet weather, then I have the Ridgeline Monsoon Elite 2. This is a very recent purchase, and it's been one that's been on the cards for a while. I love the look of these smocks. I love the durability, and kind of when I've worn it, the neoprene cuffs and the long tail to them that covers when you're crouching down, just everything that goes into it. I mean, it sounds a bit silly, but even the pockets have kind of a fleece line to them. So many of the waterproof jackets, you put your hand in and it's like, oh, I wanted to warm my hands up a bit. My hands are a bit cold in the rain, and it's just that plastic material, whereas this fleece line, it's a game changer. So I'm going to do another video on this, kind of a review video. It's not really for doing massive amounts of energy, hiking, walking, exerting yourself, because you do build up some moisture in there. It says it's breathable to a degree, but as soon as you start moving in any type of heat, it's not that breathable. But for keeping the water off you, it's perfect. So that's what you need it for. You just take it off. That's what you need it for. Okay, so that is everything in the main bag. So onto the side pouches. So one side pouch I use for all my cooking gear, and then the other one I leave empty for food. However, the one that's got food in it has just a few bits of items in that normally are on my belt kit. So I'll just grab those very quickly. So like I said, that is normally just completely empty for the food for the weekend. But in there, my belt, not the normal things I keep on my belt, are my Journeyman gloves. Like I said, I've done a separate video on these in the past. They are a fantastic pair of gloves. The creator, owner of a Journeyman, Brian Trubshaw, does a fantastic job at the kit that he makes. You'll see a couple of other pouches in the bag made by Journeyman, and yeah, they're incredible pieces of kit. Love these gloves. Like I said, if you want to know any more information, just have a look at the review that I did of them, but they normally just hang on my belt. And then the other two, as you might expect, sorry, it was uncomfortable being on my knees, is the Bacco Laplander. Again, quite a very widely commonly used piece of kit for a folding saw. I don't really need to go into much detail about that. Like I said, I don't know anybody who doesn't have one of these in their kit, either all the time or at home, other than those who prefer the silkies. So Bacco Laplander, and then most important tool is a good knife and fire striker. So this knife was made by This knife was made by Long Dog Smithy. It's a custom made knife that I bought off him a few years ago. Absolutely fantastic knife. I really recommend any of their products. I've bought throwing axes off them before, a couple of knives, but this one is my favourite. It holds an edge incredibly well, sharpens really well, and the sheath has held up to many years of abuse, and it came with its own fire striker as well, and all I've done is just added on this was my wife's hairband, elastic hairband, so that I could just keep it hooked on like that. But that like I said, those 3 pieces of kit are normally on my belt, not normally in the bag. But yes, so yeah, I really recommend, if you've not gone and checked out their Facebook page yet, Long Dog Smithy. They do courses, they do blacksmithing days as well, but yeah, some really great gear there. Really recommend those. So then into, if I just work over onto the other side, into the top pouch, the first thing that pops out is the first aid kit. It's just so it's an easily accessible, it's in an easily accessible position. It's not amongst all the other things in the side pouches. It's the first thing you get to when you open the top one. So like I said before, this is a journeyman pouch. This is my personal first aid kit. I also keep a larger first aid kit in the car, but if I just quickly go through what's in here, so there's a couple of like kind of essential items, and then first aid kits as well. So there's things like a lighter, a little joke knife, and some earplugs, which again, they're just additional things. But I have plasters, I have alcohol wipes, paracetamol, kind of for minor things. If I'm walking, this sometimes goes in my belt pouch if I'm walking around, things to stop blisters or minor cuts. But then I also have, for major things, first of all, the clotting bandage for any heavy wounds that aren't stopping bleeding, and then an Israeli bandage, hemorrhage control bandage. So I've kind of got two ends of the scale there. I've got minor things and then major things as well, so that I don't want to be running to the car. I don't have time to run to the car and get it. So things that I just need every day or on walks, and things for any major axe, knife wounds, and that's mainly what's going to be most dangerous first aid situations. The only other thing that I have in there is this small tin of plantain balm, and I use this for any insect bites, insect stings, or nettle stings. And all it's made out of is a plant called plantain. It's ribwort plantain or narrowleaf plantain, and I made a YouTube short about the benefits of that plant. Natural antihistamine, that's what stops the bite, and all it is it's an oil infused. So you collect your plantain, you dry them out, you leave them in a jar of oil for however long you want, a couple of months, a month or so, or a few weeks, and then you drain out the leaves and then mix that oil with beeswax to create the balm. And it's a healing balm. In fact, it's healing up now, but over the weekend I was in a place where I was in a kitchen and I was making the meals, and it was kind of those old school kind of secondary school, primary school ovens with the two doors, and I can't remember what temperature it was at, maybe 230 or something, and the inside of the door is just metal, and as I was going in to get the food, it just touched on my arm and it really kind of burnt me. It should have been a lot worse than it actually is. Immediately went under cold water, but I've burnt myself that badly in the past, and cold water alone hasn't really done as much. It's still blistered. So after running it under the cold water, I put this balm on, and that evening I felt no pain at all. I was showing my wife and I was like slapping my elbow and everything to show her how well it had worked. So it's a sting bite cream, but it's also just a natural healing cream as well. So at the minute it's kind of just peeling off like any scabs or the thing. You could still tell I'd been burnt. There was still a mark there, but there was no pain. And I've had more minor burns that have been painful for a lot longer than that one was, and that should have been a lot longer. So I really do rate that balm. Anyway, carrying on. So like I said, there's not a lot of items in here because I don't want the first aid kit to kind of get lost amongst it. But the only other things I have in here are some baby wipes, some cordage, some natural bug repellent, which I did a video on how to make it, and then I have my Possibles pouch, again pouch by Journeyman. And the only things, well, I have everything under the sun in here. I've got awls, I've got sewing kits, I've got head torches, I've got patches that need sewing on, I've got spoon blanks, carving things. That's why they're called a Possibles pouch. It's anything. It's for any possible thing that I might want to. I mainly use it as kind of like a relaxing kit, so when I'm sat around the fire and I need something to do, I can normally find something in here that needs finishing off or starting. So that's in there. So that's the top. So one side for food, main bit for sleeping and any additional clothing. And onto the other side now, the final side. And this is my cooking side. So I'll get these out of the way. These are just oil and salt and pepper containers. So then I have my drinking and eating bowls. These are the cup and bowl from Kapilka. It's a lovely brand. It's a mixture of kind of plastic and wood, so you get an almost natural effect from it, so it doesn't really stand out, doesn't really stop the ambience, if you will, of being outdoors. So yeah, I really like their things. I have the spork to go along with as well. So that's my bowl and my cup. So then cooking, to start off with, I have the Pathfinder kind of cup set. So this is for anything if I'm cooking rice, noodles, cook everything in here. I do have the bigger bush pot, but it's just too big for kind of what I need. I used it in the Arctic for melting snow, and obviously for bigger meals it's absolutely fine, but just for a personal cook kit, this is all you're really going to need for things like rice and noodles and pasta. And then it's a nesting set, so Pathfinder do a bottle that fits in there, but the Nalgene ones fit in there as well. So again, I just have a steel bottle, so then if that needs to go in the fire to kind of boil any water, if I need to, I've never had to because I always use this one, but if I need to, I can do. So that's that. And then the last two bits, well, sorry, the last two big bits, I've got the cutlery as well, is my frying pan. So the frying pan, which this will be the hardest one to get to. If there's anything that you were wanting to get out of this kit, this is probably going to be the hardest one, is the Murica frying pan. Okay, so it doesn't come with a handle because you can carve a handle if you wanted to when you get to wherever. I have carved a nice one at home that I always take with me because it doesn't weigh anything at all, and then I don't need to worry about kind of carving a handle when I first go out, but I can do if I needed to. The reason why these are so hard to get now is because you have to get them from, I think it's Sweden or Finland. I think both stock them, and obviously with Brexit, the import taxes that you can get are sky high. So what should be just, I think it was maybe 30 euros, maybe between 20 and 30 euros at the time of buying this, is now a lot more. So on the Bushcraft Trade Post Facebook page a good few months ago, one person wanted one, so he said, right, we need to do a bulk buy. So does anybody want to join in and buy a pan, because then we can all help with the import tax? And I think that was the only viable way to do it. So at that point I ordered another one and gifted it to my friend Gary Wayland, who was after one at that time. So yeah, that's the only hard one. You used to get them on, I think, Amazon as well. I think Amazon used to do them. If you do a search, Amazon still comes up, but it just says out of stock. So yeah, that's probably the hardest thing to get hold of. But yeah, so that's the Murica frying pan, and obviously just a one handle. And then the last few bits are just kind of my utensils. So I have a pair of wooden tongs with a magnet in, just to kind of stick to anything, the wood stove. I have a spatula, which is an old paint scraper. Yeah, but I like the handle, looks nice. Another Kapilka thing, it's the spoon and fork. And then the last two bits, I just have a chain for hanging my pots from if we've got a tripod. And the, I can't remember the name, but this is the, I think this is a Pathfinder thing as well. Is it the fish mouth or something? But anyway, it hooks. The Pathfinder cups have two holes either side, so that you can suspend the pot over a fire if you're using a tripod or bipod. So you can use the chain to attach to that one. It still fits in with the lid as well. So I've not used it for a while, that's why it's coming out. Yeah, the lid still fits on because it's got two holes for it. So yeah, it's just quite a nice contraption there. So yeah, that is everything. So like I said, one side has all my cook stuff on. The main part has all my kind of living and sleeping stuff in. Other side for food, and then the top for first aid, possible pouches, and yeah, that is about it. Other than kind of clothes that I'm wearing. Obviously things change depending on the type of activity that we're doing. Sometimes I'll take a toasty maker pie iron out. Like I said, sometimes I take out the two dogs wool smock. Other times I might take the Polish larvae out instead of the hammock, but things like. But this is my, it's always packed, just like you've just seen it, and it's just so it's ready to go whenever I want to, apart from just putting the food in the side pouches. Everybody has their own preferences. Obviously you may not agree with some of the choices that I have picked, but it works for me, and I hope if you're new to bushcraft you can have a look and see if you like the idea of that things works for you as well. Obviously if things are changing, if I need to walk around a bit more, if I'm going for kind of a hiking one, then there's a lot of this that gets taken out. The pan and the axe are probably the two heaviest bits of metal that I probably wouldn't need, because the food would then change. I'll take lighter food that would all be cooked in here. Like I said at the beginning, this is just my weekend kit that fits comfortably on my back. It's light enough that I can take it into the woods and out of the woods and carry it around if the car is parked a bit further around, and it's comfortable. I can go out for a walk and it'd be comfortable on my neck. It's not too heavy. If I'm going for longer periods of time and I'm walking for a lot longer, then some of the heavy things I would drop. But for a weekend kit, this is perfect for me. So if you have any questions at all about any of the pieces that I've found, that I've shown, then please do leave a comment. I'd love to help you out if you're just starting off your bushcraft journey. When I first started off, I don't think I had any of this kit. Everything has changed over. I think the only thing that I originally had was the backup Laplander. This is the only thing that I've had from the very beginning of kind of when I got into bushcraft. Everything has evolved and changed. Things have got lighter as well. You always start off heavy, maybe military surplus, and it gets lighter and lighter, but more expensive at the same time. If I'd known about some of these things and how well they worked at the beginning, I would have saved myself a lot of money, because I've got a lot of kit that I now never use because it's not the right kit for me. So I hope that this video helps people new to bushcraft to find kit that works, it's durable, and it's got good recommendations as well. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.